draw the attention of the House to the situation that is a bit disconcerting, particularly in relation to parts of the region, and the degree to which this instability poses to the peace and security in the regional peace, but more than that, the threat that it poses to our representative democracy. Allow me to further note that this situation, which is becoming perennial in relation to the post-electoral instability, indeed, to a larger degree, condemns and poses threat to the right to life, but more than that, the vulnerable and the poor, the vulnerable and the poor, consent of the regional and continental instruments that we have, particularly in relation to the African Charter on Human Rights and the People's Rights and the SADC Protocol on Politics, Defense and Security Cooperation, which indeed attests that peace, security and strong political relations are critical factors in creating a conducive environment. More than that, it becomes important that we also recognize that there are also existing international legal instruments which prohibit political intolerance and violation of human rights. We further bring to the attention and remind the House that Chapter 6 of the UN Charter on peace settlement of disputes provides in Article 33(1) that the parties to any dispute, the continuance of which is likely to ensure maintenance of international peace and security, has to seek peaceful and amicable ways of resolving dispute, either through negotiations, inquiry, conciliation and arbitration, and also utilize the existing regional agencies or arrangements that can contribute to peace in our region. More than that, also adding to the above is Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, which recognizes the role of regional arrangements in dealing with such matters. We also want to bring to the attention of the House and also welcome the initiative that was taken on the 13th of November 2024 by the African Union Peace and Security Council, which among others considered the post-election situation in our neighboring and our member country, Mozambique. An emergency session prompted by the post-election instability in the country, and were able to receive a briefing not only from the AU Election Observer Mission, but also statements from Tanzania as the SADC chair of organ on politics, defense and security affairs, but also from the representative of the SADC and from the Republic of Mozambique as the country concerned. We are encouraged, Honorable President, by the SADC Extraordinary Organ Troika Summit and SADC Extraordinary Summit on the 20th of November in Zimbabwe, where SADC heads of state received an update report on the recent political developments in the region, including elections in Mozambique, Botswana, Mauritius, and in Namibia and in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. instability, and convinced that security threats in the form of post-electoral instability and other security stressors such as intermittent and intensifying internal armed conflicts that have bedeviled some countries in the region poses a serious threat not only to the attainment of the African Union Agenda 2063, but also our quest to achieve sustainable development, which is contained in the Pact of the Future, but also to implementation of the regional integration initiatives within the context of the African Continental Free Trade Area, and more so considering that the 55th SADC from plenary assembly various resolutions on enhancing the role of Parliament in mitigating electoral risks and building greater resilience in the electoral process in the SADC region, and urge SADC national parliaments to also leverage on the legislative mandates to enact and oversee laws that focus on electoral risk prevention. Now, therefore, Honorable President, we urge SADC Parliamentary Forum members and the broader SADC region to demonstrate unity of purpose and cooperate and join hands in finding lasting regional solutions to regional problems, inclusive of the problem of post-election instability that continues to rear its head, to make use of the regional peace and security architectures structures such as the Regional Early Warning Center, and the Panel of Wise, the Regional Infrastructure for Peace, the Regional Standby Force, and the SADC Electoral Observer Missions, to mention but a few, which were established pursuant to operationalization of the AU African Peace and Security Architecture, and to further ensure timeous conflict prevention. Thirdly, to encourage all parliaments in the region to leverage and harness parliamentary diplomacy for constructive resolution of disputes in the region. And fourthly, to urge all countries in the SADC region and the broader international donor community to provide funding for capacity building initiatives aimed at strengthening the work of national electoral management bodies or commissions in the region, including the umbrella body, the Electoral Commissions Forum of SADC countries, to ameliorate such adverse effects. And number 5, to encourage all countries in the SADC region and the broader international community to leverage the influence to support and fund the electoral reforms and work of election observer mission. And lastly, to call for the respect of international human rights law, reasonable and measured response to unrest and public protest in conformity with the principles of justice and international law. And in conclusion, we call upon all countries in the SADC region to engage in constructive dialogue on issues of mutual concern and regional importance, such as peace and security, without violating the principles of strict respect for sovereignty, sovereign equality, territorial integrity, political independence, good neighborliness, interdependence, non-aggression, and non-interference in the internal affairs of other states. I so move, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable. The floor will now go to the seconder, the Honorable Motsoa Sele of Lesotho, to address in secondment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Allow me to take floor on behalf of Lesotho to second the motion on security situation in the region. Mr. President, honorable members, I rise to express my full support for the motion on the security situation in the region. As members of the SADC Parliamentary Forum, it is essential that we collectively strive, leverage and harness parliamentary diplomacy for the attainment of durable peace and stability in the region. Peace and security are considered to be the necessary conditions for regional development, given the adverse impact of state fragility and instability on regional integration. This is why the revised Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan 2020 to 2030 and SADC Vision 2050 acknowledges that peace, security, democracy, and good political governance are the foundation of key primary enablers of regional integration and development. Undoubtedly, Mr. President and honorable members, security threats in the form of post-electoral violence and other security stressors, such as intermittent armed conflicts, pose a serious threat not only to the attainment of the global, continental, and regional development agendas, such as the African Union Agenda 2063 and UN's Sustainable Development Goals, but also in the implementation of regional integration initiatives within the context of the African continent free trade area. Furthermore, we must underscore the need to strengthen regional mechanisms for conflict prevention, management, and resolutions. This includes supporting the operationalization of SADC standby force and enhancing collaborative efforts with African Union and United Nations to ensure rapid response to emerging security challenges. In addition, it is imperative to promote greater involvement of women and youth in the peace-building processes. Their meaningful participation not only enriches the discourse but also ensures that the outcomes are inclusive and sustainable, fostering long-term security and stability across the region. Effective border management strategies should be prioritized to address the rising threats of cross-border crimes, including human trafficking, smuggling of arms, and illicit financial flows which exacerbate regional instability. Recognizing the link between climate change and security, it is essential to integrate climate resilient strategies into our peace-building frameworks. Natural resource conflicts, displacements, and food insecurity driven by climate change must be tackled to prevent future instability. Member states must commit to addressing the root cause of insecurity such as poverty, inequality, and unemployment through deliberate policies aimed at economic empowerment, particularly in marginalized communities. Greater emphasis should be placed on fostering inter-parliamentary cooperation to ensure best practices, build capacity, and hold member states accountable for upholding democratic principles and the rule of law. Efforts to combat proliferation of small arms and light weapons must be scaled up with a focus of enhancing national legislation, improving regional coordination, and promoting disarmament initiatives. Mr. President and honorable members, supporting robust early warning systems and improving intelligence sharing mechanisms among member states are crucial to preempting conflicts and fostering swift, coordinated responses to threats. Investment in education and awareness campaigns are critical to countering the spread of extremist ideologies and fostering a culture of peace and tolerance in our societies. Lastly, we must advocate for increased funding and resource allocation towards peacekeeping and development initiatives, ensuring that SADC remains adequately equipped to address evolving security challenges. Thus, as parliamentarians of the Kingdom of Lesotho, we wholeheartedly support this motion. Thank you for your attention and support in this matter.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for your secondment. The debate is now, the floor is now open for debate. Members who wish to address, please raise your country flag at this point and we will take note. I do not see any country flag raised. There is no debate, but I will allow the mover of the motion a brief word just to close the motion.
Thank you, Honorable President. Let me appreciate the confidence that members of the SADC Parliamentary Forum has displayed in this initiative that we have placed on the table, particularly given the fact that security and peace in the region is of critical importance. But more than that, when one of us, Honorable President, is going through what is taking place precisely by virtue of contestation, which is mainly associated with multi-party democracy, it's an area that we have to come in, but at the same time expressing and also respecting the sovereignty and integrity of our countries. I therefore submit, Honorable President. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. With this, I put the question, the motion on the security situation in the SADC region be adopted. Are there any objections? There being none, the motion is duly adopted. Thank you. And thank you, Honorable Member, for bringing this issue to the attention of the forum. And I thank the members for their support. We will go to the previous motion. Notice has been given, and the notice is the motion to enhance efforts to integrate comprehensive sexuality education into national school curricula in SADC member states. And that is in the name of the Honorable Thato Mohale of Lesotho. If the member is on the floor, would you please move your motion?
Mr. President, I beg to move the motion on enhancing efforts to integrate comprehensive sexuality education, CSE in brackets, into national school curricula in SADC member states.
Thank you, Honorable. I will call on the seconder, the Honorable Senator Linda Zumalo, to second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do second the motion.
Thank you. I will now give the floor to the Honorable Mohale to address on his motion.
Question was proposed that the 56th plenary assembly session of the SADC be kind enough in acknowledging that comprehensive sexuality education, CSE in brackets, in Eastern and Southern Africa has been a vital area of focus for improving sexual and reproductive health outcomes among young people. Recognizing that countries in this region have made substantial commitments to CSE through various frameworks and policies aimed at addressing challenges such as high rates of HIV, unintended pregnancies, gender-based violence, and gaps in sexual health knowledge. Noting that in 2013, 20 countries in the region endorsed the Eastern and Southern Africa ESA in brackets commitment on CSE and sexual and reproductive health services for adolescents and young people, which ensures young people have access to age-appropriate scientifically accurate and culturally relevant sexuality education alongside youth-friendly health services to, among other objectives, reduce HIV infections, early pregnancies, and gender-based educational promoting gender equality. Considering that CSE is a right-based, evidence-informed approach that empowers individuals with the knowledge, skills, and values needed to make informed decisions about their sexual and reproductive health and rights. Recognizing that CSE contributes to the prevention of early and unintended pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, STIs in brackets, gender-based violence, and other sexual and reproductive health issues, thereby promoting overall public health and well-being. Acknowledging that CSE fosters respect for human rights, gender equality, and the dignity of all individuals, promoting an understanding of diversity, consent, and healthy relationships. Affirming as a critical component of education for sustainable development, human rights, and gender equality. Considering that research has demonstrated that CSE, when implemented effectively, does not encourage earlier sexual activity, but instead helps young people delay sexual initiation, increases the use of contraception, and fosters positive attitudes towards gender equality and sexual health. Recognizing that young people, particularly adolescents, are often not provided with sufficient, accurate, and age-appropriate information on sexuality, which can result in misinformation, unhealthy relationships, and poor decision-making that negatively impact their future. Acknowledging that many countries have made significant progress in integrating CSE into their national education systems, leading to measurable positive impacts on sexual and reproductive health outcomes, while others still face barriers to full implementation. I therefore make the following requests or pleas to SADC member states that have not yet done so, to be encouraged to integrate CSE in the national education curricula for all primary and secondary schools, ensuring that it is age-appropriate, evidence-based, inclusive, and accessible to all students, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, ability, or socio-economic status. That was the first item. Secondly, urges parliamentarians to advocate for CSE to be taught by trained educators who are knowledgeable, non-judgmental, and to students' diverse cultural and religious contexts, while promoting respectful and inclusive school environments. Thirdly, urges member states to provide adequate resources and funding for developing, implementing, and monitoring comprehensive sexuality education programs, ensuring that all schools have the necessary materials, staff, and support to deliver CSE effectively. Number 4, calls for the participation of parents, communities, and civil society organizations in the design, delivery, and evaluation of CSE programs, fostering a collaborative approach that respects the rights and views of all stakeholders. Number 5, encourages member states to support research and evaluation efforts to assess the impact of CSE programs on the sexual and reproductive health outcomes of young people and use this data to continuously improve the quality and effectiveness of educational programs. 6, calls for CSE to be delivered in an inclusive and non-discriminatory manner, addressing issues such as gender equality, sexual orientation, and disabilities, and ensuring that it is adapted to the needs of the diverse populations, including marginalized and vulnerable groups. 7, urge SADC member states to collaborate with international organizations and development partners to strengthen the implementation of CSE, drawing on global best practices and lessons learned. And number 8, and lastly, calls upon SADC member states to commit to monitoring progress on implementing comprehensive sexuality education and provide regular reports to parliaments on the achievements, challenges, and recommendations for future actions. I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Mohale. I now call on the seconder, the Honorable Sumalo, to address in secondment.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to address this very important motion. Mr. President, on behalf of the Kingdom of Eswatini, I rise to second the motion on enhancing efforts to integrate comprehensive sexuality education into national schools curricula in SADC member states. Mr. President, the call for support from SADC member states for integration of life skills education, as referred to comprehensive sexuality education, is indeed a sustainable measure. Mr. President, this terminology is constitutionally and culturally comprehended differently within respective member states, and with extensive consultations with the support of our African Population Health Research Center, APAC, for example, Eswatini as a member state in this execution of the SRHR HIV/AIDS governance project, had to consult with our SADC PF collaborating research and policy partner on how best to unpack this terminology. And as a member state, we were guided accordingly, and we adopted the use of life skills education, just as Zambia alluded to during the SRH symposium on Tuesday night. Mr. President, cognizant to the ESA commitment, where ministers of education, health, gender, and youth in Eastern and Southern Africa expressed support to continue their joint effort towards creating a brighter future for adolescents and young people in the region by empowering the youth and protecting their health and well-being to achieve the common goals. 8 years ago, ministers of health and education from 20 countries, supported by the Southern African Development Community and the East African Community, joined forces with regional UN organizations to agree on a joint commitment known as the ESA commitment. They recognize the urgent need for more systematic scale-up of sexuality education and youth-friendly SRH services in the region. While important strides have been made towards improving sexual and reproductive health rights, outcomes amongst other adolescents and young people, significant gaps and barriers still exist to the realization of the ESA commitment targets. An evaluation of the 2013 commitment revealed progress in reducing new HIV infections, increasing comprehensive HIV knowledge, and creating a conducive policy environment. However, the evaluation also indicated that accelerated efforts are urgently needed to reduce early and unintended pregnancy, gender-based violence, and curb the effects of humanitarian emergencies such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. President, further, this underscored the need to renew the commitment through expanding and aligning it with the SDG Agenda 2030. Extensive consultations at national and regional level with governments, adolescent and young people, communities and development partners across sectors led to new updated regional commitment and targets for 2022 to 2030. Mr. President, as parliamentarians, we have thus been sensitized on the ESA commitment and the importance of the need to appreciate the commitment and targets. Mr. President, the objectives of the curriculum is thus to develop a standardized, age-appropriate, comprehensive sexual education curriculum whilst ensuring such consistency across SADC member states and allowing for localized cultural adaptation with components of the following. Firstly, consent and healthy relationships. Secondly, reproductive health and biology. Thirdly, contraception and sexual health. And lastly, gender equality and rights. Mr. President, life skill education in Eswatini, for instance, has been first piloted in certain schools. Then it has been rolled out in all school grades. This has been in secondary and at primary school level. It has been integrated per grade. As such, next year it will be at grade 7. This is in continuum with secondary schools. This initiative is executed by qualified educators who are equally capacitated to heed to this call. Life skills education has to be age-appropriate, evidence-based, inclusive, and accessible to all students, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, socio-economic status, as this will help in curbing on the social ills of gender-based violence, early unintended pregnancy, high abortion rates, high suicide cases, human trafficking cases, gangsterism in schools, and redress on mental health anomalies, and more. With this, Mr. President, I therefore second the motion ably presented by my colleague from Lesotho. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. The floor is now open for debate. Will members who wish to address please raise their country tags? I have a member from Angola. I recognize the member.
Dispensa, Senhor Presidente. Gostava de partilhar alguns comentários em relação ao relatório apresentado e partilhar o nosso exemplo de Angola.
Share our
A
example
gravidez
from
do casamento
Angola.
precoce é flagelo.
Early pregnancy and teenage and child marriage is a fragility that is enrooted. Recognizing the negative impact on girls and the poverty cycle, the government agenda is quite ambitious, seeking for the creation of a society where girls enjoy their full human rights, including living without violence, access to SRHR, economic equality, and to participate in the decision and to contribute in the national development. The commitment for the protection of young girls and youth led to 305 networks of protection for children in the communities. The education to avoid early pregnancy, teenage pregnancy. This work has been done in partnership with the Fund of the UN for the population and has developed different actions in sex and SRH and capacity in menstrual hygiene. Awareness campaigns are being realized of all institutions in the provisional government and administrations to fulfill Article 2 of Law 25/12 of 22 of August on the protection and integral development of the child, including sexual education in school. Actions to ensure the psychological and legal support, young women and families on the procedures to be considered and avoid school abandonment in their pregnancy stage. As a stimulus from the National Assembly to formulate education for children and awareness through a greater awareness of national laws, we would like to mention the approval of laws that protects the right of a child, namely the 11 commitments with a child that were ratified by Angola and Resolution 5/8 of 18th of January. Law 25/12 of 22 of August, Law on Integral Development of the Child, Executive Decree 455/21 of the 24th of September, the approval of operational procedures for the adolescent in contact with the justice system and victims of witnesses of violence. A national policy of early stage was adopted and its implementation plan with awareness actions through the Child Institute and the National Council of Social Actions and municipalization of the 11 commitments. 4 integrated centers for the support to the child and adolescents were created in the province of Malange, Huila, Mushiku, and Luanda. The Republic of Angola continues to work in the process of the implementation process of measures resulting from the plenary assembly of the forum that seeks creation of relative conditions to make sure that no child sees their economic growth and personal development conditioned by the early child conditions and early pregnancy. With that, we embrace the proposal on integrating this in the school curriculums of all member states. I submit.
Thank you, honorable member. The debate on the motion is concluded, and I invite the honorable mover to respond.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the motion that I've just requested this honorable House to support is quite ideal and important to the children that we're raising, the children that are the future. So it is quite important to help those kids to be able to abstain and be able to take health measures, and also to avoid the issue of debating about abortion. We know so well that if we take necessary steps, it would not be easy for children to get pregnant, and also for children to engage in sex. So for the sake of kids that will be able to handle themselves in a proper way, I think this motion is most appropriate. We know that in situations where someone is simply uninformed, a calm and factual explanation might be more appropriate than silence. As Africans, we hold taboo in engaging on matters that we feel that they are not appropriate for kids. So I think it is most ideal for now for SADC Parliament to encourage our region to be able to assist kids in handling the issues of sex. I so present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now put the question of the motion on enhancing efforts to integrate comprehensive sexuality education into national school curricula in SADC member states be adopted. Are there any objections? There being none, the motion is duly adopted. Thank you. Honourable members, we will try to move on some of the other items on our agenda. I call on the Secretary General to read the next order.
Statement on matters of importance to the Forum by the Deputy Speaker and Leader of the Delegation of Botswana, Honorable Helen P. Manyineng, updating the 56th Plenary Assembly on the 2024 Botswana General Elections held on the 30th of October 2024, pursuant to Rule 45 of the Rules of Procedure.
Thank you. Secretary General, I will now invite the Deputy Speaker and Leader of the Delegation of Botswana, the Honorable Helen Manyineng, to give her statement, and that is in accordance to Rule 45 of the Rules of Procedure. Honorable, you have been ascribed 7 minutes for the statement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please let me write on the protocol earlier established because of time. Mr. President, it is an honor and privilege to address this august House for the first time on the occasion of the 56th SADC Parliamentary Forum under the theme Leveraging Technology and Innovation for Smart, Inclusive and Responsive Parliaments in the SADC region. Mr. President, I'm attending as a leader of delegation and the newly elected Deputy Speaker of the National Botswana. I'm 4 members of Parliament, and one of them is the Leader of Opposition, Honorable Dumelan Salishando, who has also served in this august House before. Parliament of Botswana was dissolved on the 5th September 2024 in preparation for general election. According to Section 90.3 of the Constitution of the Republic of Botswana reads, whenever Parliament is dissolved, a general election of the elected members of the Assembly shall be held within 60 days of the date of the dissolution. Mr. President, the October 2024 general elections ushered in New Botswana. For the very first time since gaining independence in 1966, the Botswana Democratic Party lost elections after being in power for 58 years. The elections resulted in a resounding win for the Umbrella for Democratic Change coalition, of which the UDC got 36 parliamentary seats, Botswana Congress Party got 15 seats, Botswana Democratic Party got 4 seats, Botswana Patriotic Front got 5 seats, and lastly, we had an independent candidate. We saw a smooth transition of power between the former President Dr. Mokgweetsi, Eric Gabetsu Masisi, and President Advocate Duma Boko. As some may recall, President Boko has served as a member of the SADC Parliamentary Forum from 2014 to 2019. He was a member of the SADC PF Executive Committee and also an Executive Committee Legal Subcommittee from 2017 to 2019. Honorable members, we are pleased to inform you that your former colleague, Honorable Ditapelo Lefoko-Rapetse, has been appointed the Speaker of the current 13th Parliament of Botswana and sends his warmest regards. Honorable Speaker, Rapetse is one of the longest serving member of the SADC Parliamentary Forum, whom I am informed is dedicated to this organization and serves it with passion. The general election produced 61 directly elected members of parliament and 6 specially elected members, of which 3 were women. Members of parliament, bringing the number of elected members to 67. Women representation in Botswana, in Parliament of Botswana, remains very low, as the House now has a total of 6 women out of 67 members, which is 9%. We must admit that this is undesirable performance that needs urgent attention. Botswana electoral system operates on a first-past-the-post system where voters choose a single candidate. The system is seen to contribute to low participation and low representation of women in political, especially in parliament. The new Botswana is of the view that introduction of electoral reforms will result in a fair share of more women in political spheres. The new Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Ditapelo Lefoko-Rapetse, believes so much in the ideals of the SADC Parliamentary Forum and intends to bring reforms such as gender-sensitive electoral forms, public financial management reforms, and other equally important reforms that will strengthen parliamentary oversight and improve efficiency and effectiveness of National Assembly. Mr. President, as the chairperson of Botswana Parliamentary Caucus on Women, I do implore the SADC PF women, especially regionally, to stand with Parliament of Botswana in dealing with this challenging task of improving women representation to above the universal target of 30. Mr. President, on behalf of the delegation of the Parliament of Botswana, indeed on my behalf, we pledge our solidarity to the SADC Parliamentary Forum, as well as upholding its objectives, ensuring promotion of human rights, gender equality, good governance, democracy and transparency, as well as the regional integration and economic cooperation. As you are aware, Mr. President, the SADC Parliamentary Forum lobby mission team of speakers led by the Right Honorable Speaker Advocate Jacob Francis Njidamililo Mutendawe in Gaborone, Botswana in August 2024 to lobby Botswana to sign an agreement amending the SADC Treaty to transform SADC Parliamentary Forum into SADC Parliament. The former president pledged support, Mr. President, and the current government is working on concluding the process for Botswana to sign very soon. Mr. President, let me take Mr. President, let me take this time to once again assure you of our commitment and support to the achievement of the objectives of this forum by collaborating and cooperating with all member states. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker, for your update. We are very interested in following the developments in our member countries. Once again, we congratulate Botswana on the successful conduct of elections and its continued commitment to democratic principles and to adherence to the constitutional processes. On behalf of the Plenary Assembly, I extend our best wishes to Botswana in the post-election phase, and also our commitment to the Parliament of Botswana to support its program in the years ahead within its mandate. Thank you very much. Secretary General, I will call for you to read the next order.
Address by the representative of Chandler Institute of Justice Mr. Ron Chari, Executive Director, on commitment to partnership with the SADC Parliamentary Forum to develop the SADC model on mining and to enhance parliamentary action on sustainable governance on critical minerals in the SADC region, pursuant to Rule 44, subsection 5 of the Rules of Procedure.
Thank you, Secretary General. I'm very pleased to give the podium to the Chandler of the Institute of Justice representative to address.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please allow me to write on the protocol already observed in the interest of time. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to address this esteemed gathering as we approach the conclusion of this plenary assembly. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks for inviting us to participate and observe the important deliberations of this session. I represent the Chandler Institute of Justice, a private institution headquartered in Cape Town, South Africa. At Chandler Institute of Justice, we are deeply committed to supporting transformative law reform initiatives across Africa. Our work focuses on providing expert advisory services, specialized legal training programs, and innovative legislative tools designed to empower our government partners to enact impactful government-led law reforms. We firmly believe that well-crafted laws are not only the cornerstone of a just and equitable society, but also a powerful catalyst for sustainable economic prosperity. Our mission aligns with the aspirations of this forum, which is to advance good governance, foster economic growth, and enhance social mobility throughout the continent. During this plenary assembly, I was particularly struck by the depth and breadth of the issues discussed, issues that resonate deeply with the work we are doing in partnership with some of the SADC member states. These include legal reforms in the mining sector, particularly in the regulation of critical minerals, development of legal frameworks in infrastructure, private-public partnerships, and then also creating legal frameworks to attract private sector investment in renewable energy projects. In light of these shared priorities, we are pleased to reaffirm our commitment to partner with SADC Parliamentary Forum in developing impactful legislative instruments. Specifically, we are eager to contribute to the creation of the SADC model law on mining and then the SADC model law on public-private partnerships. These instruments hold immense potential to harmonize regional policies, attract investment, and drive sustainable development across the SADC region. As we look towards the future, we pledge to make this partnership a dynamic and impactful one, a partnership grounded on mutual respect and shared vision of progress for the SADC region. Once again, I extend my gratitude for the opportunity to be part of this gathering. Thank you very much.
Thank you, representative of the Chandler Institute of Justice. I assure you, we welcome the commitment to partner with the SADC PF to develop model laws on mining and to enhance parliamentary action on sustainable governance of critical minerals in the SADC region. It is a partnership that we will greatly value. Secretary General, I will ask you to read the next order of the day.
Address by His Excellency Mohamed Nasheed, Secretary General of the Climate Vulnerable Forum CVF and former President of the Maldives, on strengthening partnership with the SADC Parliamentary Forum to advance parliamentary climate action for the implementation of the Paris Agreement in the SADC region, delivered pursuant to Rule 44, subsection 5 of the Rules of Procedure.
Thank you, SG. The statement by His Excellency Mohamed Nasheed, Secretary of the Climate Vulnerable Forum and former President of the Maldives, has been pre-recorded, and will be played to the assembly. To note that this address aims to strengthen the partnership to advance parliamentary climate action for the implementation of the Paris Agreement in the SADC region. I will now invite our technical team to run the address.
And
we are not hearing the recording, so would we correct and start again, please?
Parliamentary clerk, delegates, guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure that I am able to speak to you through a Zoom link today. I now work as the Secretary General of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, which has its headquarters in Accra, Ghana, and I reside in Ghana. I would like to mention a few points on our organization, the Climate Vulnerable Forum. We started the Climate Vulnerable Forum, CVF, in 2009 because it was clear that climate vulnerable countries should group together in order to increase our collective voice. Back then, there were 11 founding members. Now we are 70 members, representing 1.75 billion people, while emitting only less than 6% of the global emissions. In 2023, there was an interest to become an independent institution to better serve the goals of the membership. So, I left my job at that time. I was the Speaker of the Maldives Parliament and took up the post as CVF. As I mentioned, our headquarters is in Accra. I have now been living in Accra for 10 months, and I am now more convinced that we could be soon living in an African century. Africa has renewable energy wealth and the critical minerals required to supercharge the energy and the transport transformation. The mission of CVF, South-South cooperation, to enable climate prosperity, bringing together development, climate and nature to improve lives and livelihoods and ultimately our economies. The CVF is a head of state arena, and we have a V20 finance ministers group and a central bank's working group. We also have a global parliamentary group because parliamentarians play a crucial role in advancing the CVF V20 agenda, particularly in promoting legislative frameworks and partnerships that align with CVF V20's priorities. And we hope we can work with you on this part of our work. Key areas where the CVF V20 and parliamentarians can collaborate to address processing global regional challenges is in 3 areas. 1, ensuring we have accountability in the delivery of climate finance and the international finance reform agenda. 2, delivering climate prosperity plans with perspective of unlocking legislative frameworks and value engineering to deliver new investments. Enabling our natural capital through proper accounting and valuation of our forests and biodiversity. And capitalizing on green investment. While I was the Speaker of the Maldives Parliament for the last 5 years before I started this job, it became very clear to all of us that to deliver on the climate prosperity plans that the CVF develops with member countries, it is critical crucial that parliamentarians engage in the process. The legislative frameworks, the regulatory frameworks for natural management plans, for financial procedures, for debt swaps, for green and blue bonds, for all manner of raising finance. It is the parliament that we feel that plays a critical role. I think we have a huge opportunity to cooperate on climate prosperity plans, natural capital, accounting and green industrialization. Specifically to focus on processing and value engineering for export to enable growth in our economies. In 2025 is a critical year to set the pace and trajectory towards high growth and job creation. To get here, I hope we can work together to unlock the full potential of integrating green industrial policy to harness our collective strengths. This should include pooling resources, sharing technology, and assigning our fiscal and development strategies so that we can consolidate our renewable energy wealth. Electrification, transportation, and fortifying and expanding our power grids. Africa can create green industrialization partnerships within the region to target critical areas such as renewable energy and storage infrastructure, green manufacturing, and value addition of her enormous raw material. We can also create green industrial zones and innovation parks to enable Africa to leap forward in the global green. Unlike traditional industrial zones confined with national borders, regional green industrial zones would integrate the unique competencies and raw material resources of individual African countries to collaboratively develop a green value chain. This model would allow countries to specialize in areas with comparative advantages, raw material extraction, processing, manufacturing, or innovation, while pooling resources and aligning regulatory frameworks. Africa's regional partnership can transform Africa's industrialization through capacity building, research, and sustainable energy solutions. To conclude, whether it's upgrading grid networks or implementing low-carbon technologies in manufacturing, the collaboration among African countries will ensure that Africa's future industrial base is on clean and renewable energy sources with robust energy storage infrastructure. While this approach, Africa's entire manufacturing hub will be powered by green energy to create eco-friendly products for the global market, while drastically curtailing frequently unreliable power supply that satisfies industrial growth in most African countries. Thank you.
On behalf of the Forum, let me thank the Secretary General of the Climate Vulnerable Forum for committing to the partnership to advance parliamentary climate action in implementing the Paris Agreement in the SADC region. I know that this is an issue that is very close to the business of the Parliamentary Forum, and have no doubt that its advancement will benefit our two organizations. Secretary General, I will call for you to read the next order.
Address by the representative of Conrad Ednoir Stiftung, Ms. Anya Casper Barretta, Head of the Energy Security and Climate Change in Sub-Saharan Africa Program, on commitment to partnership with the SADC Parliamentary Forum to advance parliamentary leadership and legislative effectiveness for energy security, renewable energy, transitions, and climate resilience in the SADC region. pursuant to Rule 44, subsection 5 of the Rules of Procedure.
Thank you. I invite the representative of the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung to address the Assembly.
Honorable President, please allow me to stand on the protocol already observed in the interest of time. I'm very delighted and grateful that I can address you this morning on behalf of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and I would just like to use this opportunity to briefly introduce you to the work that we have been doing in the past on the African continent. Konrad Adenauer Foundation, or KAS, is a German political foundation that works worldwide to promote liberal democracy, the rule of law, and the respect for human rights. KAS is also committed in its international work to promote climate protection, equal rights, and the implementation of social market economy structures. Our international work is almost exclusively funded by the Ministry of Economic Development and Cooperation, and therefore public money. For political foundations such as Konrad Adenauer, parliaments and parliamentarians are natural partners as they form the backbone of democracy. Parliaments represent citizens' interests, pass laws and scrutinize the actions of the government. In fact, our current chairman, Professor Norbert Lammert, served as the president of the German Bundestag between 2005 and 2017. Honorable President, honorable members, for Germany, the country I'm coming from, and Europe, regional integration has been proven to be a successful strategy to overcome wars and conflicts, and very few people would have predicted the level of economic and political integration Europe has experienced over the past 70 years. Our name bearer, Konrad Adenauer, was the first German chancellor after the Second World War, and he was a firm believer in the European integration idea. He signed the Treaty on the Coal and Steel Community in 1951, which was in fact the predecessor of the future European Union Treaty. The Coal and Steel Union was supposed to make war in Europe materially impossible by merging the European coal and steel industries and putting the control over these resources to the oversight of 6 countries. So regional integration was the only way to prevent conflicts in the heart of Europe in that time. Unfortunately, in today's time, we can observe global tendencies of rising nationalism, countries talking less rather than more with each other to resolve the complex challenges of our time. Why am I saying this? Because I really want to congratulate the SADC Parliamentary Forum, who recognizes this value of international dialogue, who has the aim to strengthen regional cooperation, dialogue on issues of regional interest and concern, and strengthening parliamentarians in their efforts to promote international cooperation amongst parliaments, for example, on those critical issues such as climate change and security. Let me just give you some few concrete examples on how Konrad Adenauer Stiftung was able to support the work of parliaments and parliamentarians in the past. The regional program Energy Security and Climate Change that I'm heading, amongst other partners, has worked with African parliamentarians on the issue of climate change for the past years. We have supported parliamentarians to strengthen their presence in international climate forums, such as the African Climate Week or the Conference of Parties to the Paris Agreement. We have supported parliamentarians with the aim to involve them more closely in the NDC process, for example, asking the responsible national ministries to report to Parliament on the stage of implementation of the NDCs and to formulate their own legislation on national climate ambitions. In the area of raw materials that are necessary for the energy transition, we are working to strengthen parliamentary oversight so that parliaments can make evidence-based decisions on relevant legislation. We have, for example, organized a workshop together with the SADC Parliamentary Forum on the subject matter in July 2024 in Namibia. We have worked also with other partners such as the West Foundation for Democracy in selected African countries to strengthen national climate committees. And we are currently working on a project titled The Barriers to the Uptake of Renewable Energy in Africa, with the aim to identify why the installation and capacity of renewable energies, despite the great opportunities on the continent, is so slow. In this study, we also compare legislation from selected countries that might help other countries to formulate appropriate legislation in their respective jurisdictions. As Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, we value the principle of equal partnership. So when it comes to future cooperation opportunities between CAS and the SADC Parliamentary Forum, we are very eager to hear from our partners what they need, and we will then discuss how we can best achieve this together. In the past, we have invited selected parliamentarians to study tours abroad. We have conducted capacity building activities or commissioned studies, and we are very open to continue this cooperation in the future. We have invited selected parliamentarians to activities in order to foster exchange between technical experts and politicians. For instance, on a workshop on the carbon border adjustment mechanism in Mozambique, where some MPs have expressed that they've never heard about this material of the CBAM yet. They will deal very soon with reporting standards and emission for exporting their products to other parts of the world. Some areas of potential future cooperation, from what I have heard over the past days, and also echoing the motto of this conference, we are increasingly seeking to combine climate change action with the potential for economic growth on the African continent, and we want to work together with our partners to combine aspects of trade, industry, and climate, especially using opportunities of digitalization and technological innovations. We are very happy and looking forward to hear your ideas on how these topics could be incorporated in a potential future cooperation between SADC PF and CAS. I'm very much looking forward to hearing your thoughts and issues, and once again, I thank you very much for giving me the floor.
Thank you, Madam. I thank the representative of the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and I welcome the commitment to partner with the SADC PF to advance parliamentary leadership and legislative effectiveness for energy security, renewable energy transitions, and climate resilience in the SADC region. It is a partnership that we value, and I'm sure that many parliamentarians will find their collaboration beneficial to their goals. Thank you. Secretary General, I will call on you to read the next order.
Address by the representative of Africa Climate Foundation, Mr. Salim Fakir, Executive Director, on the commitment to partnership with SADC PF to advance parliamentary action on climate resilience and food security in the SADC region, pursuant to Rule 44, subsection 5 of the Rules of Procedure.
Thank you. The address of the representative of Africa Climate Foundation has been recorded and will be played to the Assembly. I invite our technical team to run the recording.
Good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Salim Fakir. I'm the Executive Director of the African Climate Foundation. Just to say a little bit about the foundation, we are a new African-based and African-led foundation that is a pool fund and operates as a philanthropy. We provide grants and support to a range of actors in Africa, which includes government, civil society, business, and other partners that are vital for the kinds of things that ACF would like to focus on. And I will say a little bit about what we focus on. ACF is a climate and development philanthropy. We focus on two main things. We are looking to increase investments in new technologies, particularly things like renewable energy, storage technologies, etc. And we believe that those are important to stimulate economic growth and development, diversifying the Africa's economies. And the second part is that, as you know, climate is a big issue globally. And I was reading just very recently the statistics around what insurance companies are spending. That number is quite significant. I think average about $300 billion a year. These are the reinsurance companies. That means that if the cause of events temperature, it will imply that household insurances will go up, or there will be places around the world where it will be simply impossible to insure. We know of this already in South Africa, for example, where insurance companies are pulling out of insuring places like KwaZulu-Natal, which are regularly affected by tornadoes and floods and cyclones. And this is also happening elsewhere in the world. So ACF is really designing its work, and again I want to repeat, focus around the climate development nexus. We believe that development and climate have to go together, and it's about the economy. It's about how we build the future economy, and how we prove secure and make that economy climate proof, and also enable it to attract investments that are climate oriented. So this is quite an exciting way, a novel way of tackling climate issues, a uniquely African way, and so we are very excited that we can do that, and we have the privilege of doing that. We, as ACF, we operate in close to 10 countries now, where we tackle thematically the following issues. We are very interested in energy transition works, and we support work in South Africa, Senegal, and Nigeria at the moment, and we are also supporting work in adaptation and resilience, such as Malawi and Zambia. Now, that is not to say that we are limited to that. There are other areas that we are focused on, like food security, new forms of agricultural practice, like regenerative agriculture, agroecology, and we are looking at things like critical minerals, green industries, etc. So it's quite a interesting terrain, and again it brings out that core theme that I just mentioned, which is climate and development is the core pivot of ACF. We do it through organizing collaborative ecosystems in the different countries that we work in. The one gap that we see, and this is why I'm talking to you today, is really around the role of Parliament and citizens' participation in the arena of not only democratizing development and climate issues, but also being able to be asking tough questions as to what the executive arm of government is doing in relationship to making sure we have the right laws, the right enabling policies, and all the other good things that parliamentarians do. So we are very excited to work with the SADC Forum. I had met many of you at COP29 in Baku. I was completely amazed at the quality of the members, but also quite surprised that a thing such as the SADC Parliamentary Forum exists. And I'm hoping, and I give you my moral support to make sure that all 13 SADC members, you have 11 now, sign up to making sure that there is a SADC treaty to establish a SADC parliament. Lastly, I would like to say that we have a great opportunity as ACF to work with you, not only in the areas that I just mentioned, that would be a separate occasion where we can discuss that, but in the most immediate way. As you know, this week in South Africa, several big G20 meetings are happening. There's the P20, which is a parliamentary 20 grouping, and my plea is, please make sure the SADC parliamentary members are active in the G20, bang on the door of the South African government, and also make sure the African Union is active, so that this is truly an African G20. And we hope that one key issue we would like you to champion is around food security and protecting African and certainly Southern African economies from climate risk, particularly extreme weather. Thank you very much for for this, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you very much. Good evening, depending on where you are.
Very much to the representative and also to his organization, the Africa Climate Foundation, for the commitment to partner with SADC-PF. It's of course a partnership that we will greatly value. Honorable members, we have come to the end of motions and statements on our order paper. I want to reassure you that the only business left for us has to do with the transition to the next presidency of the SADC Parliamentary Forum, and that is for the years 2025 and 2026. We will take these items included in this process together this afternoon. In the meantime, I would like to make an official announcement. The member has a point. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Looking at the program, I would move to suspend all relevant standing orders if we would just tackle the remaining program now before we go for lunch, so that when we go for lunch, then we can go get ready for the boat cruise. I submit.
Honorable member, I believe that we are at the time scheduled for lunch. We are about to break. I pray that we can break for lunch and resume on our normal schedule at 2 p.m. May I make announcements, please? I would like to make it official. There will be a sunset cruise for all delegates today, Friday, 13th, 2024, at the Radisson Blu Quay, from where 2 boats will await the delegates to board. Boarding onto the boats will begin at 1600 hours and departure will be at 1630 hours. Drinks and snacks will be served and further announcements will be made by the boat crews. I understand that the boats have to be back at the dock by 1800 hours. I also have received a notice that there will be an excursion to the Kazungulu Bridge at the border between Zambia and Botswana on Saturday, 14th December 2024. The 923-meter long bridge and one-stop border posts were officially commissioned by the presidents of Botswana and Zambia on 10th May 2021 to support trade and transport along the north-south corridor. Transport to visit the bridge will depart at 8 hours from Radisson Blu Hotel reception area. Leaders of delegation and their attached staff will utilize their designated vehicles. Members of parliaments and clerks will board a 70-seater bus. Accompanying staff will utilize other buses. The excursion is expected to end at 12 noon and lunch will be served between 12:30 and 14 hours. After lunch, the same transport would be available to take delegates who would like to go and visit the mighty Musi Au Tunya Falls. The visit of the falls is expected to take 1 hour. Members, I thank you for your attention. We will now adjourn for lunch and resume at 2 o'clock.
Business has been adjourned, and thank you so much for staying tuned to Parliament broadcasting platforms, that is radio, television, and social media platforms. And the House has since adjourned. Excuse me. The House has since adjourned until 14 hours. What is remaining on the program today is election of the SADC-PF President and Vice President for period 2024 to 2026, and this is pursuant to Article 11(2) of the Constitution and Rule 10 of the Rules of Procedure. And then also have presentation of awards of recognition for serving in the Executive Committee for the period 2022 to 2024. Thereafter, we expect the handover ceremony by the outgoing SADC Parliamentary Forum President and the SADC PF President-elect. Then I will have the closing communique of the 56th Plenary Assembly. All right, so we have had the report of the Regional Women's Parliamentary Caucus adopted by the 56th Plenary Assembly in a motion that was moved by Honorable Shali Josepha Raymond and also seconded by Honorable Rachel Zulu. Another motion that has been adopted is a report of the Standing Committee on Gender Equality, Women Advancement and member states has also been adopted, or rather considered. It was moved by Honorable Tato Mohale and seconded by Senator Linda Kumalo. Then we also had the consideration of the motion on the security situation in the SADC region. That was moved by Honorable Kenneth Mosi Manengape Moimang from South Africa, and also seconded by Honorable Makaleto